This is the Ask Faleskini podcast, where the modern economy is discussed from a skeptic's perspective. Mr. Faleskini helps you distinguish what is sustainable in our economy and what isn't. Not everything that glitters is gold, and not all mud is dirty. The podcaster Mr. Faleskini provides no-nonsense advice. He had it all, lost it all, went bankrupt multiple times, and is now attempting to come back from zero with sustainable growth. There are numerous coaches and preachers on the internet that preach about positive thinking and how life is all roses if you just care to see it that way. Well, Mr. Faleskini is definitely not one of them. We recommend you ask Faleskini to keep it real. He discusses the darker side of the current economic reality, the side that's more important for your personal and business finance. His first intention is to help you keep what you already have. Not to be a complete party pooper, Mr. Faleskini will also hint at the earning opportunities in the economy today. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please like, share, and subscribe. And now it's time to start taking notes. The mic goes to the podcaster, the one and only Mr. Faleskini.
Welcome to the Ask Faleskini podcast with a guest. I'm proud to present Nina Stephenson-Camps. Nina is a mindset coach. She helps businesses and individuals prevent burnout and cultivate healthy mindset. Nina, please tell us more about yourself. What is your story?
Hi, Peter. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'm so happy to be here. So where to start? Well, my background is corporate. So I worked for more than 15 years in PR, marketing, and advertising. I worked for organizations like Microsoft and Google and agencies like Ogilvy and so on. So I had lots of experience working in very fast-paced, dynamic organizations with a multitude of super talented individuals. And I reached the pinnacle of my career, or I thought it was anyway. And I expected this kind of like nirvana moment where all my problems would be solved and I would feel amazing. And I didn't. And it really shocked me. So it really made me kind of like kind of look into why I wasn't satisfied with this goal that I'd always, been seeking to achieve. And I decided to go traveling solo around Southeast Asia and Tibet. And it was a wonderful, life-enriching experience. And in that time, it was about 1.5 years that I was away for, I got really interested in yoga and meditation and lots of different healing modalities. Came back to the UK, went back into freelancing and realised that actually there wasn't any tools that I could draw upon in the moment to create space from a mindset perspective, to create more sort of peace so that I could be more decisive. I could, remove the clutter and really assess a situation for what it truly is. So I started to develop my own techniques, very much based upon the breath, the way that, being very conscious of the internal narrative. And the people that I worked with started to notice that I was incredibly calm, very, decisive, creative, and able to move through typically challenging situations swiftly, with a sense of poise and grace. So I started to share my techniques with my teams, and head of HR at the time at Golan, I think it was, cottoned onto it. Lovely Fraser, and asked me to hold a mindset workshop to share my tools with the agency, and that's when I started my my career, and started to train as a coach, and then today I offer a range of products that help people to create change in real time. So whereas before you might have to do something before the day or after the day or maybe at lunchtime, the techniques that I share enables people to course correct in the moment. So you don't have to wait for change. So I I'm very passionate about it because I've been there many times. I've been really stressed at work. I've had the Sunday scaries, or I don't think that they just, you have them on a Sunday, so to speak. I've been in situations that have caused incredible amounts of stress, and worked with people in teams that also experience that kind of stress. So to be able to create and share tools that work to avoid that is just, it's brilliant.
Okay, I have so many questions
Yes.
just on what you told me so far. And first, we touched the burnout, and you said that you made it in your career, and then you were just not satisfied.
Yeah.
And then you went traveling.
Yeah.
So, what has this? So you basically fulfilled all society induced goals and you were extremely successful working with the biggest companies like you mentioned Microsoft and Google.
Yeah.
And yet you were not satisfied.
No.
So,
No.
No. And then you went in Asia and did yoga and similar. And when you so I'm sure that you did a lot of meditation there and met a lot of teachers because Southeast Asia is full of people that searching for themselves and their soul and their purpose.
Yeah.
And the most intriguing for me is that you said the tools that were available were not applicable. So I would like your opinion on, do you believe that modern self-help is based on a principle of, let's say, Asian holy texts that are not well translated into English or any other language? And then we have huge problem because as far as we agree with the principles, we have problem how to integrate them in our everyday life.
God, that's a great question. No, I don't. In short, what I do, because I think the principles are all quite the same. Actually, I think the message is the same across the board. I think that the challenge is with our modern day, the way that we work and the pace that we work and the information that we receive, it's constant. We need tools to be able to settle our minds in the moment, in real time. So what I mean by that is, say from a work perspective, or it doesn't even necessarily have to just be at work. It can be when you're, standing in line at a supermarket and you're getting frustrated because the queue's taking ages. And in that moment, you have two choices. You can either continue to get frustrated and spend whatever time you are going to be there, annoyed and frustrated, and you're just getting more and more frustrated, but nothing's changing about the situation aside from the fact you're getting more and more, frustrated. Or you can concentrate on your breathing, or you can decide to, do something else, check your emails, like turn it into something that's productive. So it's very much about taking charge of your mindset in the moment, because you always have a choice as to how you're going to, react to or respond to a situation. So it's not that I think that the old, philosophies are outdated. I think that there's an opportunity to evolve them in that sense, because if, say, for example, you use yoga as a great example, and yoga breath and the various different types of meditation and various different types of breathing. Those are the types of techniques that I share and that I practice, but in a very short space of time. So it's about being able to understand what those philosophies are, understand the different ways of approaching them, but then adapting them to your day and your situation.
Okay. Yeah. Why do you think that most people do not learn this at home or at school? And why do we have so many frustrations like you mentioned, when queuing or when something comes up, and why we are not able to deal with it. What is the reason? Is the reason just too much on our hands? What is the reason that our life has become so hectic and that our reactions are basically overreactions?
Yeah, I'm just thinking about that answer. So there's two things in my opinion. One, we are encouraged as a society to look outside of ourselves, which always sounds really navel-gazing and people kind of roll their eyes, but it's true. We're told that having things will satisfy us, and they do to a degree. Of course they do. And having a lifestyle that that's really comfortable and all the rest of it is obviously a great thing, a wonderful thing. But it's not everything, and I think that people can get so. As a society, we're encouraged to sort of look outside of ourselves, and that creates the dissatisfaction.
Okay, so where should we change that? You help companies and individuals. Should every company just make a department that keeps people happy, or that keeps people satisfied, or that just, let's say, check their mental temperature every now and again?
I mean that's a lovely idea. I mean, I guess that's where learning and development departments come in. But I think it's really down to the individual. Actually, of course, organisations should facilitate opportunities to support and provide those opportunities and be very active in that. But it's also down to the individual to take charge of their mindset health and to be accountable as well. And not many people want to dedicate the time that it takes to commit and manage their mindset health. It's very much the same as your physical health. In fact, it's exactly the same. If you think about it, what could be more important than spending time focusing and cultivating on the health of your mindset? Your mind dictates the way in which you experience every single situation that you encounter. It's the lens for everything that you view your life through. So if you're not concentrating and focused and committed to cultivating the best mindset that you possibly could, I don't know what else could be more important, really. Because
I'm 100% on your side.
Yeah.
With that, I would just like to ask you, because our listeners are always busy, and either they're professionals or they're developing their own business. So how would you propose they go about scheduling their day? Because I do believe that a lot of burnouts and a lot of mental challenges or health issues, or however we want to call them, is just a direct consequence of inept scheduling, because we just schedule too much for ourselves, and we want to do too many things in a certain time that we have for that, and we want to be successful in half a year instead of in 2 years.
Yeah.
Then we work twice as much or four times as much, and it's same with I believe with when we train our body with our fitness. We cannot do something that it takes 2 years in a year. That's almost impossible. Of course, there are people that are more talented, but I also believe that mindset is similar. It needs to be trained. You said that your key advantage is that you have developed techniques that can help you train your mindset wherever you stand. What's your take on starting the morning right and finishing the day right? What's your take on that? How important is that?
I think it's
for our mindset.
I think when you do it, I think it's a game changer. I think it's really helpful to start the day in a certain way and reflect at the end of the day. I think it's very, very helpful. I think it's interesting that, when you go to sleep, for example, it's really important to give your subconscious something to do. So if you ask it a question, or ask yourself a question, or like, how can I solve this? Or, give me the answers for this, that sort of thing. It's really interesting, the clarity that you can get overnight when you sleep, because your subconscious is always working. It's always on. So starting the day right, I think the thing is about what works for the individual. It doesn't have to be really time consuming. And I think this is the thing that most people, that it creates a bit of a challenge with a lot of people. They think that it has to be, hours, and you have to sit cross-legged with your hands in a mudra, and that's the only way that you can kind of achieve, a mindset freedom. But in actual fact, it can be very, very simple. Even start getting up sort of 5 minutes earlier than you ordinarily would, starting the day with waking up and just being really conscious that you are awake and that you're here, and saying, thank you, brilliant, it's a start to today's going to be a great day, and really setting that intention from the get-go. And then really focusing on your breath and taking, maybe 20 to 30 deep conscious breaths in and out, and really kind of like getting into the day. And then you can set your alarm clock for 2-hour intervals. I always say this to my clients: set your alarm clock on your phone for every 2 hours. And when the alarm clock goes off, use that as a trigger to check in with yourself. How am I doing? Am I achieving? Where am I focusing my attention on where it needs to be focused? What's my internal narrative? I talk a lot about radical honesty, and I think that is a really powerful way to ensure that you are being accountable, because the way that we, the output of our experiences are very much based on the habits that we adopt. So if there's anything in any area that we're not happy about, I think it's really valuable to look at what we're doing on a day-to-day basis. Like, how are we waking up? Like, to your point, do we wake up and grab our phone? Do we just scroll on social media as soon as we wake up? All these things that we all do, myself included. I've done it many times, many times I've, scrolled at night and just thinking to myself, what am I doing? And can really see the difference. And I also think there's a lot of value in what I call falling off the wagon, and recognizing, actually, when I start the day like this, being really conscious, practicing some gratitude, really focusing on my breath, being very intentional with my actions. When you do that throughout your day, versus waking up and reaching for your phone and just kind of like scrolling on LinkedIn or Insta or whatever it is you're looking at. You can see from a mindset point of view, from an attitude perspective, from a feeling perspective, that, the two starts inspire very different experiences. So, in order to cultivate your mindset and really start the day and end the day in the best way, it requires, a level of consciousness and being aware of what you're doing and when you're doing it and why you're doing it. And I do think, ending the day asking yourself those 3 questions: what am I proud of? What would I do differently? And how can I, congratulate myself, is a really nice way to reflect. Because often, actually, I was thinking about this earlier on, often because we're so busy doing, and your audience, for example, is, constantly looking for, how to achieve their KPIs, how to achieve their goals and so on, it's really important to reflect on what's being achieved so far. Because we can be so busy doing that we forget to acknowledge all that we've done, and it might be, it might not be that you've necessarily hit that particular goal within the time frame that you've given yourself, but it just might be that you've taken several really important steps to set yourself up for success in that goal, and that requires acknowledgement as well. So, I think, building in moments to reflect and practice that radical honesty and being really clear on what's working and what's not on a regular basis, daily, ongoing, can really help to create more creativity, to inspire you more to make changes that you need to make when you need to make them. I think for so many people, the notion of pivoting and making changes and tweaking can sometimes be quite a challenge. I think lots of people can get into the mindset of, well, that's what I've decided and that's what I'm going to do, which is great from in one way, but as your days unfold, working on this particular goal, new information is going to come in. So you need to have a flexible mind to be able to adapt and change and keep moving forward. When we're stressed, our mindset is rigid. We contract. And when we're in that space, there's no room for creativity. Nothing creative ever happened when someone was stressed out or anxious. It's not possible, because your mind's too busy focusing on trying to keep you safe. And I love this as well, actually. Let me share this with you. I love the reality that our mind, our ego, whichever way you want to frame it, is our subconscious, is completely focused on keeping us safe. And it doesn't want to know a maybe, or it could be. It's like yes or no. And it goes back to the day when we were, living in caves, and we had to be hyper alert because any noise could be a predator. So our minds are hardwired to see change as something negative. That is like, what is that noise? Oh my God, something could kill me. Okay, fast forward, millions of years, and we're in a different situation. However, the key facets of our mind haven't changed. So when we're in situations that are new and different, our mind immediately goes into, is it safe or isn't it? If it's new and different, then the mind will go back in history to see if there's a situation that's similar that you've been through, that it can say, oh, don't worry, that happened, X, Y, and Z. So then you can start to feel safe. Or the mind will start to think about the future. Oh, this could happen, that could happen, this could happen. And that's where the fears come in. All of which are really important to our survival. So it's not about, practice these mindset techniques or be more conscious in your day-to-day and you won't have any worries, you won't have any fears. That's not part of being human. What it does mean is that you'll be able to meet change and any fears that arise with clarity. You'll be able to meet them in the moment and assess a situation for what it truly is, not based in the past or based in the future. It's like, you hear loads of times in business, I said that to you already. I've already said that to you. Didn't you hear that? Or I said that to so-and-so and I didn't. And what's usually happening in those moments is people aren't actively listening, or it's actually called global listening. They're not listening to every single thing that the person is saying. They are either trying to think of when they can say their next point, or they're trying to anchor the situation in a similar situation that they've experienced. So that's where miscommunication, can arise. So the more aware we are of these facets of our makeup, the more we're able to meet situations in their truest sense. Yeah, it's quite interesting. I think it's, it's very, just to give you another example, it's like, when you meet someone that reminds you of someone that you've met in the past, and it can be really disengaging, because you almost go to communicate with that person, that new person, in the same way that you communicated with the person that you met previously, that they remind you of. It's especially potent if you don't particularly like that person that they remind you of, right? And it's very subtle, but very interesting. So yeah, I think there's our mind is so fascinating, and I think I think the science says something like we're only aware of 25% of our capacity. So I think there's lots more to discover. I'm not sure we'll do that on this podcast though, but anyway.
Yeah, what I would like to ask you, you're talking about radical honesty.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge fan of accountability concepts. And I would like to, because you're a coach, how important is for high performance people to have a coach, a mentor, accountability partner? How important is that? Is it possible to do it without these days?
I mean, I think it's vital to have a coach or a mentor, for sure. I mean, aside from the fact that it can be really good fun and you learn so much, but from an accountability perspective, I think to have a running partner in that way is absolutely a must-have. Can people do it without? I mean, I guess there are people that can. But I think everyone has a mentor of sorts in life, in a business capacity, and in life in general. If you think about the role of a mentor, mentors are very different from coaches, aren't they? Coaches are more about looking at particular situations and working out goals and strategies to achieve those goals. But mentors give more of an advisory, perform a more advisory role. And I think, in our everyday life, we have mentors. We have people that we look up to, people that we, aspire to be like, people who have what we want from a character perspective, or indeed, even from a materialistic point of view, which is also great. And I think being open and receptive to different points of view, different ways of doing things, can really help from a growth perspective. I mean, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because everyone sees a different situation, the same situation, completely differently. Like, for example, you and I are on this podcast, and when we finish, I will have one perception and you'll have another, but we've both encountered the same situation. So I think working with a mentor and a coach can be really valuable, because they come with a different perspective, and one that invariably, you wouldn't have thought of. I think it's great. I mean, I know that when I come off a call with my coach, I always feel great. Really, really enthusiastic. And I think, when you're, when you have the complexities of business, the multitude of different personalities to navigate, and different challenges and different opportunities, having, a coach or a mentor can be such a game changer in terms of your direction, your strategy. They can really help you to be accountable. Did you really need to do that? Or, you sure your focus doesn't need to be there? That type of thing. So yeah, I think it's a great way to work as well. I really do.
Okay, thank you for all these insights. And before we finish, I would like to ask you for another favor. Can you share with our listeners and our viewers one trick of the trade, or trade secret even? What is the single best way to cultivate healthy mindset?
Good question. So the one tip that I always share is about setting your alarm clock on your phone for intervals throughout your day. so that you can check in. And then just another one, if I can squeeze it in, is having the attitude of things happening for you, not to you. I think that is a game changer.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nina, for being our guest tonight.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Faleskini, for this outstanding podcast. And thank you for listening to the Ask Faleskini podcast until the end. Mr. Faleskini would love to hear your feedback in the comments. And don't forget, if you want to know, ask Faleskini or listen to the Ask Faleskini podcast. In order to please the almighty algorithm, please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.